well. And so here's Oklahoma, fresh off of a 6-7 season in 2024 with Brent Venables in his third year, and with a lot of changes that have since taken place since 2024 wrapped up with a loss in their bowl game that was a thing that was actually in doubt at one point in time if they would even make that. But they did have that big surprising win, if y'all remember, over Alabama. That was a 3-touchdown win in Norman, and that got them bowl eligible. But then they proceeded to lose in 3-touchdown fashion to LSU in their trip to Death Valley, and then went down 21-20 in a thriller of a bowl game, a game we know very well, the Armed Forces Bowl. They fell to the Navy midshipmen last we saw OU. So since then, again, this is not a preview, but John Mateer and big-time additions through the portal, and the running back's name escapes me from Cal, Jaden Ott, and various other front office position moves, a new GM, and all of that. So Brent Venables, this is it, pal. Like you've got to go and win this year. And so what kind of a road is he facing as the Sooners try to not get bowl eligible, but try to be competitive and try to win the SEC and get into the college football playoff? Will it all start on Saturday, and all games for Oklahoma will be on Saturday. But the first one up on August the 30th, it'll be Illinois State in Norman. SEC Network game, weird 5 o'clock kickoff time for that one already announced. And then in week 2, we get a special, very interesting double dip of SEC Big Ten action, but particularly interesting because of the 4 teams involved, as we're going to get Texas, Ohio State on week 1, and then we're going to get Oklahoma, Michigan in week 2. So to have those two blood rivals playing each other, crossing over, I think is pretty unique and cool that we're going to get those two matchups. So yeah, Texas gets Ohio State, Oklahoma gets Michigan. They get them in Norman in week number 2. Then September the 13th, they'll hit the road for the first time and take on the Temple Owls out in PA, and then open up SEC play with the Auburn Tigers there on Saturday, September the 20th. That game is in Norman, and then they will get their first bye week of 2, as that is the norm this year once again. So first month, Illinois State at home, Michigan at home, at Temple, and Auburn at home.
There, you know what? We don't know how Sharon Moore gets Michigan if they're back to having, what you expect from them. Does that give OU a chance to have a much better start than I maybe thought of without even looking at the schedule?
I'd rather have them earlier than later.
Sure.
Bryce Underwood might win the starting job, but if he does, you've got a true freshman in his second career start that week against a defense that's probably going to be pretty good. So I don't know. I like that, and I do. Right? I really think that this is very interesting. You're going to know in that game where both teams are, and then to have Michigan and Auburn in that first month, really, you're going to learn a lot about who all those teams are.
One thing I say about Michigan, about Oklahoma and Texas, because we've done. I love the fact, and you wonder how long this will last, and I would think it will always have to be this way. And Texas, they play Ohio State, Michigan back to back if they could. But they always have what? They always have a fantastic non-conference game. No matter where Michigan is or they just always – they're never going to dodge having one of those games.
They might eventually if it gets to the point where everybody's just going to be like Indiana and say, why play even tough games? We can just waltz our way into the playoffs.
I still think Oklahoma and Texas are almost in that point where they I think that they'll yeah, unless they also become just an average.
I think they always will. I'm just saying, if there becomes a situation, but then again, how is everybody not going to play anybody? I don't know how that could work out. So, yeah, I think there are two teams that'll probably be willing to continue to play whoever, whenever, wherever. And you bring that up every time we talk about Oklahoma and Texas schedules. But, yeah, it's valid. And so, yeah, they're both playing the two teams from the game, respectively, this year. Texas and Ohio State, and then Oklahoma and Michigan. So there's a way you could see 4-0, and you could see them really feeling themselves in that first month with a win over Michigan and a win over Auburn. I think that's all doable. And I think in the case of Michigan, the offense is the big question mark, right? Starting with your quarterback play. I mean, that's the question. But Oklahoma, better have a pretty good defense because of the fact that is their calling card at this point. So that might be a situation they can take advantage of a young Bryce Underwood. I don't know. But, that's a favorable matchup potentially for them.
One quick note, the next couple of years in 27, 28, the biggest named team on their schedule is SMU. So you wonder if there's going to be a mega game that they add to that schedule. Yeah.
There you go. So maybe they're already going the path of that. By the way, Cignetti, I don't even – but it reminds me of the Baylor strategy. He sounds just like Art Briles, but without the baggage, at this point. But that was the exact same thing that Baylor was doing there for a while that eventually people turned on them for. And I think that'll be the case with Indiana as well. Like if they're winning 10, 11 games, but they're still playing nobody, then that's going to get to a point where people are, all right, you're not getting credit for rigging the system, basically. So at some point, you're going to have to start lining up some teams. But we'll see. That's all very questionable how it's all going to work in the future. But for Oklahoma, after their first bye week, October the 4th, Kent State, who I feel like we've seen 100 times throughout these schedules, but that's because they've got themselves one hell of a schedule. Kent State's playing Tech in Lubbock. They're playing Florida State in Tallahassee, and they're playing Oklahoma and Norman in their first 5 games. So that's fun for Kent State fans who love to travel to road games. That's a hell of a schedule. For everybody else, not so much, but Kent State there for Oklahoma. So 5-0 possible or 4-1, like you should definitely expect so. But then let's get into really the heart of it. And look, Michigan will be a test. Auburn will be a test. But now they get into there's no SEC special on their schedule because they've now accounted for their non-con games so far. So it's all SEC after October 4th. And that October 11th game, of course, is a neutral site. It'll be OU, Texas, Red River, there on Saturday, October the 11th, followed by a road trip to take on the South Carolina Gamecocks and a very familiar face there in Shane Beamer. Then October the 25th, back home, hosting Ole Miss. Following week, and right before your second bye week, you are on the road at Tennessee. So that second frame, you've got fresh off the bye week, Kent State, that's a win. Texas at South Carolina, Ole Miss at Tennessee.
You want to talk about your SEC bubble? You always talk about, I just want to mention this right off the bat. How many teams could lose their starting quarterback they played $8 million for in the fashion they did and still be preseason ranked if they weren't? Like Tennessee did.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
Idea.
Absolutely.
You have no idea who their quarterback's going to be.
For sure.
And I'm not saying that the rest of their team isn't nails, but they lost their starting.
Look at these recruiting rankings from
I don't know. But you have no, right now, Josh Heupel, every night before he goes to bed, downs 7 Alka-Seltzers and is I hope this turns out okay. He's just done. But that is if those teams hold, right? Texas, we know, will be good, even if they're not as good as people think they are. They're still going to be good. If they slightly don't match expectations, right? If they just not quite there, they're still going to be really good. South Carolina, kind of the same thing. If they just slightly don't, if they're just as good as they were last year and no better, still really good. Ole Miss, I think will be a little bit back, but still a tough one. And then Tennessee, we don't know about. That is a tough 4-game stretch, and we're not even talking about the 3 they have after the bye.
Yeah, this is what you signed up for. This is exactly what you wanted, but you can tell though from a fan perspective, this is freaking awesome. Look at this list of teams that you're just going to and from that are all big name teams.
It's like the girls Derek Jeter banged list.
Yeah, exactly. So
their last 7 games are against teams that will be ranked at the start of the year, and then that doesn't include, of course, the Michigan game and whatever Auburn is.
Yeah, and probably 5 of those 7 could lose a couple games and it'll still be ranked no matter what.
Or 3.
Yeah. So then you get into the third and final frame after you've traveled to Knoxville, you get a break, and then a 3-game stretch to close the year, and you will be in Tuscaloosa on Saturday, November the 15th against the Crimson Tide. Then the following week at home against Missouri in a renewed rivalry with the Tigers that dates back to the early 1900s and now multiple conferences. And then after that Mizzou game, you will have LSU there at the end of the schedule. This game in Norman, as of course the schedule just flips from a year ago when they closed things out in Death Valley and got bludgeoned by the Tigers. But yeah, there you go. There's the schedule for Oklahoma in 2024.